Ready to roll? How are you, Jason? Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here. My name's Chris Hill. I'm General Sales Manager of WBZ News Radio, and I want to welcome everybody to the Cambridge Trust Company WBZ Business Breakfast. Thanks for all coming out this morning. It's going to be a great breakfast. We have a panel that is going to talk about, once again, social media successes. And without further ado, we're going to get started. But first, I'd like to introduce Senior Vice President, General Manager, and CBS Market Manager, Mark Hannon.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is a busy time of year, so we appreciate everyone coming out and being available for today's session. We're really excited about this. We, a couple months ago, hosted a social media breakfast. It was more about strategy, having a strategy, creating a strategy for business. And I think we were astounded and blown away by the turnout for that. And now we're following it up today with a more practical approach, real success stories in business using social media strategy. So, great panel. And without further ado now, I will introduce the host, Anthony Silva. He's the co-host of the Afternoon News on WBZ and the manager of New England Business.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. And it's great to see you all here today. And again, as Mark was saying, the response has been terrific, and we really appreciate you coming this morning. There are hundreds, maybe thousands more watching us online as well. We have filled all the seats here, and we are also streaming online at cbsboston.com/breakfast. And we are also encouraging you here in the audience, as also our audience online, to join the conversation on Twitter, and the hashtag is WBZ Breakfast. And you'll see some of the tweets on the screen as well as we progress. So I really want to welcome you here to what has got to be one of the hottest topics there is right now. We have all noticed in our own businesses, the growth is in digital, online, and in that new frontier. A recent survey discovered that 82% of chief marketing officers plan to increase their company's presence in social media. But over half of those companies also say that they're not ready to jump in. Many saying, we can't handle it yet. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the knowledge. And that's what this event is all about. Is this how your company is feeling right now? Well, you're in the right place. Social media's rapid growth represents nothing short of what many experts are saying is a change in the balance of power, with customers sharing their experiences and, in some cases, as we've seen in front page news and on WBZ, sharing their annoyances with your company and products. It's how you respond to that you can either be part of or control or not be part of that conversation. So is your company on Facebook? Is your company on Twitter? These are some of the specific topics we'll talk about this morning. Now, at WBZ, we have about 5,000 Twitter followers, with many editors and producers and reporters and anchors tweeting every day. We're also greatly expanding our presence online and what we offer our online customers as well. Is your company currently tracking blogs or online reviews? A survey found that fewer than half of the companies asked are doing just that. And is it time? And the same survey discovered that 75% of the companies are still trying to comprehend just what the heck social media is. So welcome, we're in the right place, and if there are any free seats, we have a few people standing in the back, and maybe you can give up those seats as well. Also, later on, we're going to ask for your questions. Please don't be bashful, all right? We will have a few people roaming through the audience with a microphone. We hold on to the microphone, and we'd like you to ask your questions too, because a lot of this morning will be about your questions. So if you're here today, I can assume that you understand that social media is an important game changer. But the challenge for all of us is to maximize its value. How can it work for you, and how can these new tools be integrated with traditional mass media to develop what many of us want is a unified message without losing that control of that message? And these are some of the questions that we'll tackle today. So I wanted to welcome our panelists this morning as we begin our conversation. Author and editor Michelle Manaffi, the author and video blog pioneer Steve Garfield, Blue Ink owner and chef Jason Santos, and founding partner of 451 Marketing, AJ Gerritsen. Come on down. We are Michelle, Steve, Jason, and AJ. All right, great. And before we begin, what would a WBZ News Radio presentation be without our sponsors? That's why we don't charge for this event. You know, we were doing some research, and some of these events in Boston and New York, they charge 3 figures to come into an event like this. And this is a public service of WBZ and also this Cambridge Trust Company, WBZ Business Breakfast. I want to thank our title sponsor, obviously, Cambridge Trust Company. Thank you for supporting what we do at WBZ. Thank you all to our presenting sponsors, First Republic Bank, Solar City, Bloom, Shapiro, Salem 5 Bank, Herb Chambers, Lexus of Sharon. You saw the Lexus out there, IBEW, Local 103. And also thank you to our associate sponsors, the Duck's Bed. If at some point you get bored, you can take a nap out there. The Duck's Bed is right there. 5 Hour Energy, I doubt you will. BioHeatOnline.com, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Sterling Ware of Boston, Stonehill College, Regis Office Solutions, and Barrows. Thank you all for being part of this Cambridge Trust Company, WBZ Business Breakfast. Now we can begin. So, get your microphones, and we get underway. What we'll begin with is a few conversations with our panelists about some of the things they've said, they've written, and they represent. First of all, I wanted to start with Michelle. Thank you so much for being here today. It's a pleasure seeing you. Michelle, your book talks about digital natives and how we can relate to them. Tell me, what is a digital native, and what is our challenge?
Well, the generation of digital natives is defined as the group who has grown up with nearly ubiquitous internet access and access to digital technologies. There isn't a hard and fast start date for the generation, but as a rule, you say mid-'80s, born mid-'80s and on. This generation has grown up sharing, involved in social media environments pretty much since they were toddlers. I mean, many are already using their parents' digital devices as soon as they're capable of holding one. In some cases, they've been involved in social networks from an early age as well. Sites such as Club Penguin, Lego, sites where they are encouraged to express their opinions on just about everything, to very publicly share insights, opinions, to be involved in processes from a very early age. And this has profoundly shaped the way that they view the world and their expectations when it comes to interacting with businesses, with organizations, and many of their other behaviors, including the way they purchase things, their decision-making processes, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, their willingness to share their both favorable and unfavorable opinions about your products and services online.
So that means the rest of us are digital
immigrants.
Immigrants. Okay. So this is the clash of the natives and the immigrants, I guess. Okay.
I don't think it's such a clash, and I think that those that are here are certainly in large part going to be early adopters, and if not, they're going to be engaged enough in these behaviors, these processes, that there will be a really nice cross-generational communication that can be developed.
As you mentioned, people now are just very, very at ease with sharing their opinions of a product, of a company, of an experience, large and small, negative and positive. What sort of challenge does that present for a company, no matter what size? And a great example are some of the companies that we know that have had issues with this. One, Netflix or Bank of America.
Well, certainly it presents a challenge in the sense that many traditional marketers, for example, are highly adept at creating messaging, at creating a sort of image for the company, and then systematically going out and promoting that image. Unfortunately, well, for better or worse, companies today don't control the message as much as they might like, because every person is, in essence, a marketer, a publisher. Everyone can get out there and have an almost equal, if not greater, say than an organization itself. Now, yes, this is terrifying. But what you see with organizations, I'm going to say Netflix actually handled it beautifully. Everybody got up in arms. You saw every pundit, every customer complaining, what are they doing? Why are they dividing the business this way? It doesn't suit my needs. And they very quickly and publicly responded to their customers' needs. So not only did they have this flurry of negative press, they very publicly had an opportunity to just demonstrate responsiveness to their customer base. And I think that's how companies need to view it, as an opportunity to be quick, to be responsive, and to very publicly own mistakes and move on.
Now, you have written about many companies who have had very positive experiences online, who have had well-executed and well-conceived programs. One of them I know you mentioned was Procter & Gamble.
Well, Procter & Gamble is a really interesting company because obviously, we look at a lot of kind of digital upstart companies and say, well, of course they get it. These young companies, they're founded by digital natives or they were founded online. But Procter & Gamble is an old company that had really established ways of doing business. For example, I think one of the things we all look at when we look at social media are things like marketing, first and foremost, and then maybe customer relationship management. But what Procter & Gamble has done that I think is just really remarkable is capture social engagement in its innovation process. The company has a portal called Connect and Develop, in which it engages with innovators worldwide in what it calls the process of open innovation. And I think this is one of the things a lot of companies overlook. It isn't just about getting out there and being part of a conversation with customers. It's actually being part of a global, open, shared knowledge network as part of a social media strategy as well. Today, Procter & Gamble, which traditionally relied on its internal R&D and a group of trusted partners, now reports that over half of the innovations in the company involve significant contributions from outside innovators. I mean, that means people who just jump up on the site and chime in on an idea. That's pretty transformational.
Excellent. I know we're going to get into some other examples as we move along. And again, want you to ask your questions about your own company. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And looking forward to talking with you more. Next in line is a man who pioneered video blogging. And Steve Garfield, he and I have some roots in Peabody. That's where I grew up, and you spent some time in that city. And Steve, you have a great story about how you got into video blogging. How did you develop the whole idea of it?
So, well, it starts out when I was little, and
doesn't everything?
It's like it really goes back to I heard that if you think about what you were doing when you were 7, that's what you should be doing when you grow up. So when I was little, and we went on, it's right? When I was little and we went on family vacations, I used to try and grab the camera from my parents, and then they went, here, you just take the camera and shoot all the photos for the vacation. So I really had an interest in photography. And then that developed into an interest in video production. And when I lived up in Peabody, I took advantage of the Peabody Public Access, where the public access television station would train the people who lived in Peabody for free. So I took total advantage of that, and I learned how to run the camera, how to do editing, how to direct a show. I had my own show, which you might have seen, Steve's Show, live on Friday nights. And I just totally loved it. And then at a certain point in 2003, the equipment that you had, it used to go to a TV station to use, was available for everybody to bring in-house. So I got my own camera, and I got a Macintosh and Final Cut Pro, and I learned how to do video and editing. And so then January 1st of 2004, I like to do a New Year's resolution. And I thought, well, blogging has made it so easy for people to tell their stories online. You just type in your text and hit publish, and you're on the internet. I said, why hasn't anybody made it easy to put video online?
Put this in perspective. This is 2004.
January 1st, 2004.
What's online? Give us a sort of a snapshot of what's out there at that point.
Well, so this was almost 2 years before YouTube. So the only people that were sharing video online were those kind of techie people who were figuring out how to have pay for their own hosting. So I had to figure out how to... I'd put some videos online on static web pages, but that was a whole programming effort. So what this experiment was, it was an experiment too, just a technical exercise for me to try and figure out if I could put video on a blog and make it easier. So I made up this new blog, and I called it Steve Garfield's Video Blog, and I put video on it, and on that same blog post, I explained how I did it, and I shared this knowledge of
So you shared the information about how it was done as well.
Right. That's what I'd been doing in blogging since at least 2000, just sharing knowledge.
Do you need expensive equipment?
Well, that's my whole story. You don't need expensive equipment. I'm sure a majority of people in here have a device on them right now that will shoot and record pretty good video, maybe even HD quality video, like I have my iPhone, which shoots, brilliant quality HD video.
Tell me, you hit a real nerve there, and that is tell stories. So what you're posting is not static. You're telling a story in all of your videos, and that's how you're engaging those who follow your blog.
Oh yeah, we're telling stories, and even if we're not editing together a whole huge video with a whole storyline and a lot of shots, I'm also sharing moments. And in 2004, when I started putting up video blogs, other people around the world also started figuring out video blogging. And there were just a handful of us as it started. There were so few that we all watched everybody else's videos. And we just watched, what they're doing in their house, playing with their kids, different little moments. And it so happened that one of the guys, we started up a Yahoo video blogging group so we could all learn from each other. One of the members of the group was in Chicago, and they were planning a trip to New York. And I said, I'll go to New York. And we all wanted to meet each other because we'd been watching each other's videos for a year. And so we got about 70 people to meet in New York after a year of watching each other's videos. And we called it VloggerCon. We met at a free space that we got. And when we first met, like if I'd been sharing videos with you and we met each other, it was like, whoa. Yeah. I feel like I already know you.
Exactly.
It was this moment, and we'd never experienced it before, but we said, this video is really powerful.
One more story. I want to ask you about that.
Yep.
And that is, through these videos, you made contact with Jimmy Fallon.
Right, Jimmy Fallon from Late Night with Jimmy Fallon.
Who's now a friend of yours.
Right, so we're now friends.
Okay, connect the dots.
Okay, the quick story there is, before Jimmy Fallon did his late night show, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, he started a video blog. And he came on this first video on the blog, and he says, hey, it's Jimmy Fallon, and I'm putting together this video blog because I want to show you the behind the scenes of how we're putting the show together and share with you building the set and everything. So we're going to do a new video blog every night. So as one of the first people who ever started video blogging and basically made it up, I want to nip it in the bud because he said something incorrectly there. He said he's going to make a new video blog every night.
Show a new posting, right?
But he's not going to make a new whole blog with a URL and everything. He's going to put a new video on his blog every night. So I left a comment there on the blog, and I says, hey, Jimmy, I explained that, right? So then that Friday on his video, he said, okay, we're going to talk about readers' comments. And our first comment is from Steve Garfield, who says, I'm not making a new video blog every night. I'm just putting up a new video. And he says, okay, Steve, I got you. We'll listen to what you said. And then I gave him a lot more advice, and then we became friends over time.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to talk more about video blogging and the whole idea of maintaining a blog for your business. But thank you very much for being here today, and I really appreciate it. Next, owner and chef of Blue Ink, Jason Santos, TV star, chef, and a great guy. Thank you very much for coming today, Jason. And I know when I first asked you about social media, if I may quote you,
please.
You said, I am a social media whore.
It's pretty much it, and that's the understatement.
Tell me about
of the year.
this.
I think, I'll tell you, everybody has their different story, and I'm sort of more the social end of it. I mean, I did it because I was bored, I mean, what else can I do? I have the attention span of a goldfish, so what else can I do? So I think my first interaction with social media was MySpace, and, I don't know where that is now, but I just sort of started getting into it, and I realized that this is a super powerful thing that we have here. I mean, this is like word of mouth on steroids, you know, and I realized just the movement of it. And so I started to involve myself and get really into it and consumed by it at times. And now, you know, I mean, it's certainly helped my business. It's certainly helped me. It's just a really great way for us to all interact. I mean, at the end of the day, all we're really doing is igniting a conversation. You know, I mean, there needs to be passion. And I think for me, that's what makes me really enjoy this sort of social media boom.
Now, obviously, those of you who have been there know this, but those of you who have not been to Blue Ink, Jason's dishes scream with creativity. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think my life screams with creativity.
Yeah, okay. Things like orange gel noodles and black truffle Dippin' Dots or liquid nitrogen salsa, all great stuff.
I mean, if that doesn't scream low attention span, I don't know what does.
Tell me, how do you translate, though, that passion you have for food to the passion you have for your online dialogue? Because it seems like, you know, you're right there. You tell people what you do, and if they have a problem with it, you engage them. And that's what I guess the point I'm trying to get at is this passionate engagement you have with your customers and your followers.
Well, I think, I mean, for me, I'm a pretty honest guy, you know, by default, I guess. I mean, you know, abrasive, whatever you want to call it. But I like to address everything. I mean, if someone doesn't like something, I want to know why. I mean, we could all sit here all day and say how great we are to each other, but that doesn't fix anything, you know? So I sort of like to hear the negative things. And for me, it's like in my twisted liquid nitrogen brain, I am trying to, you know, start a revolution, I guess. You know, I mean, I want to start this conversation that never ends. So for me, it's an interaction. It's a, you know, inspiration. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, being a chef is amazing and there's certain creativity, but I think that sort of spontaneity of posts or Twitter updates or whatever the terminology is, it all has to funnel into the business. And at the end of the day, as much as I love what I do, I'm in business and I have to take all this, good or bad, and translate it into how can I get better.
How often do you tweet?
Depends. I haven't been up this early since 1987. So I'm probably not going to tweet a whole lot this morning. But I certainly try to tweet, you know, more and more. And I think, you know, I can tweet, hey, come get this steak special, and I'll sell 25 steaks. I mean, it is very humbling for me to realize how many people want to be involved. I just hit 10,000 Twitter followers yesterday, which I find ridiculous, you know, that there's 10,000 people that are interested. But I feel like they're, you know, it has to be personable. I have to be interested in them. And I just think it sort of goes back and forth. It's like a digital expression of yourself. And I think we just have to understand at the end of the day there's people behind that, and we're just talking.
Before the event, Jason was telling me he never writes notes, but he did today. Did you quote what you wrote there?
Well, I mean, it's only because I didn't get home from work until 2 a.m. and I went to bed at 3:30. So I figured as much coffee and 15 5-hour energy as I just had. I think for me, it's you know, a lot of my social media, you know, there could be times where, hey, I'm in Vegas and I woke up in a lion suit. And the next day it could be like, hey, come try our awesome crab cakes, you know. But I wrote, you know, you have to embrace your authenticity unapologetically. And that's sort of what I do. I mean, I'm me, good or bad, take it or leave it. And I think it just translates. And I think the honesty, I think people can get that honesty. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm just trying to be the best at what I can be and what I do. And, you know, and I care what everybody else does. And that's it. I mean, for me, it's a very sort of simple thing here.
Have you ever retracted a post?
You can't do that on Twitter. I found that out. Yeah.
When it's out there, it's out there.
I can't confirm or deny that at this point.
Okay, we'll get down to that a little bit later on. Thank you very much, Jason. We'll talk some more. And I appreciate the fact that you didn't sleep much last night, but thanks for being here. Our next speaker, AJ Gerritsen, founding partner of 451 Marketing. 451, the temperature at which paper burns. Okay, sir. I would imagine that any company's social media policies need to balance many, many factors, like the culture of the company or its risk tolerance or a combination of both. How is that strategy developed? How do you help a company? Because obviously, Jason, being in the restaurant business, can say a lot more than a bank president or the CEO of a financial services company.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration. So a lot of the people, even some of the people here, have issues like compliance. So what you can say, what you can't say, who you can endorse, what is an endorsement. There's a lot of different things that you have to consider depending upon your industry. Above and beyond that, one of the things that I see quite a bit of is that companies are trying to maybe use social media as a vehicle to create almost a culture of business development. But what they fail to realize is that if you're going to take all of your employees at many different stages of their professional career and say, all right, guys, we all want you on social media, we all want you tweeting and posting and sharing and so forth, it's your responsibility to actually set the limits as to what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Because especially if you have an organization that has a lot of young employees and they're all connecting with your Facebook page because you feel that your company needs to have a Facebook page for recruiting or whatever, you need to tell them to take the silly pictures down. And there's a lot of different things like that you need to establish that protocol. It's a very important thing, especially in the B2B space. I know a lot of the companies here and a lot of people listening are in that business-to-business, maybe not in the consumer, but business-to-business world. We're going to see a huge uptick in social media usage in the next year, 2 years. We've already seen it on a steep incline. So if you're going to get involved with that, and if you're going to encourage these people, you really have to tell them what's kosher and what's not.
Should many people in a single company be tweeting and being involved in social media simultaneously? Or would you suggest that, especially smaller companies, designate 1 or 2 people to take that over?
Yeah, one of the things that we see a lot of is that, people don't realize the commitment that's involved with starting a social media program. So they understand that, all right, we have all this opportunity here in social media, and everyone thinks social media is free, but guess what? If you're spending time, you have 3 people dedicating to tweeting and blogging and so forth, it's not free, because that is really a cost in resources. But if one of the ways that, in terms of keeping up with that commitment to generate content, whether it be, video blogging, whether it be to regular blogging or tweeting or whatever it is, a lot of times what we see companies are sharing the responsibility or sharing the workload across people. And whether that be, 3 or 4 people who are tweeting under a Twitter handle, but then, maybe saying that I'm so-and-so tweeting for X company, or, the different bloggers within a different organization. I think it's a great approach. I think if it's done correctly, I think if people make a commitment to it, but you really do have to make that commitment, because one of the worst things you can do is start a social media program or start a social media effort and then you build up followers and then just walk away. It's a big letdown.
Can you integrate traditional marketing and media with your online presence?
So this is something that I think that there's a lot of conversation about, and one of the things that I hope people walk away from this room is that for most companies, it's not a conversation of, throw out the old for the new. You can't focus all your efforts on social media. It's not, especially most of you in the B2B space, it's just not going to work. But one of the things that you can do, it's an amazing channel, and by the way, it is just another channel. It's one that operates differently from, say, the traditional marketing that we're doing. But one of the things that you can do and take away from it is that if you integrate it with your traditional activities, it can be really, really powerful. I'm just going to give you one example. So one of our clients, Yankee Candle, big candle company here in Massachusetts, they had a great spot. We had pitched them for the spot. They were on Good Morning America, and they said, all right, they were going to do this whole deal promotion. And that in itself was great. 4.5 million viewers. They were going to, probably, they said, you might get 1,500, 2,000 transactions. That's typically what we get online. We said, all right, hold on here a second. Now, we see that we have this great opportunity. Why don't we put a little plan in place to take that and leverage that through social media? And that's exactly it. They had 300,000 fans on Facebook. And again, a lot of the B2B folks here, that sounds like a high number. But again, this is more consumer side. Good Morning America, same thing, 1.2 million fans. And what had happened was we put a little strategy in place. We leveraged that, went live on Good Morning America. We leveraged the social media in place. And that 1,500 transactions translated into 9,000 transactions in one day. Realized revenue was close to $800,000 in 9 hours. And that's what I'm talking about, a potential missed opportunity, that if you don't have someone watching out for both ends of that, that it just be, again, missed op.
Another example, I know that you mentioned in our earlier conversation about companies that handle it well, Dancing Deer. Yeah. Tell me about that and how they approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we got a call from Dancing Deer, probably last year, and this was, they do 75% of their business between Thanksgiving to New Year's. And that's kind of like crazy time, corporate gifting and so forth. By the way, fantastic company, great product. So they said, we need some help. We know social media is a great tool. We want to leverage it. And this was probably mid-October. I said, all right. So starting mid-October to try for a big push starting in Thanksgiving. We got 4 weeks, guys. You're not helping us out. I'm thinking maybe next year they were talking about. So he said, all right, so a lot of sleepless nights. We figured out this plan. We put it all together for him and, went gangbusters on it. But what I was really surprised at, and obviously we're doing social media all the time, but what I was really surprised at was because of the measures that we were able to put in place, because of everything we're doing, because they were really good and authentic with the content and getting out there and welcoming, and most importantly, because they didn't have a lot of social media channels built up. And this is one thing that, also understanding that even if you don't have a huge presence online, one of the things they were really good at was, and we helped them with, is that we were able to identify the people who influenced their customers. So even if I don't have a following of 10,000 people, if I know that somebody else has a following of 30,000, and that person is an influencer within my space, that person can be a vehicle for you. I know it sounds a little callous, but, think in those terms. We put this program together in a very short period of time. They not as important to them, the millions of mentions within a couple of weeks, but then it actually translated to over $140,000 in actual revenue for them within that short period of time because they were converting one out of every, and we were able to track all this, one out of every 4.5 people that came in from our efforts converted to a $45 sale. So, just one example of how this stuff can all work.
Okay, I know we touched upon this, but I do want to ask this question before, and we're going to go to questions soon. I know we have our microphone people around here, so if you have a question, if you raise your hand now, and we'll get a microphone to you. We have a question right in the middle. Do we have one over here too? We have one right in the middle. We can get a microphone there and keep this whole event going. Also, we're streaming live on cbsboston.com/breakfast, and you can also follow the conversation on Twitter with hashtag WBZ Breakfast, as you can see on the screen. This is the question I want to ask you. With any new technology, you have a lot of opportunity to screw up badly. And you always have that opportunity with new technology in a new way, and it can turn a minor gaffe that maybe is right in the office, in one room, to a public firestorm with social media. How do you control or react to that?
So we could spend a whole hour and a half just talking about this, but there are some things. So for those of you who have been involved in public relations or anything like the time, so it previously in years, you always had the crisis communications plan, and it was a very well thought out strategic plan. Who's going to speak, what are they going to say, the call, having a command center, blah blah blah, et cetera. You also have to do preparation on the social side, and some of that includes things, just a simple thing, monitoring your brand. So making sure that when something does happen, you're well aware of it, you know what's going to happen. But then putting that protocol into place. All right, what kind of information are we going to respond to? Who's going to respond? What are we going to do? Being genuine, transparent. Looking at things like, all right, who said what? Does this person have a large following? Is this going to impact our brand? If it's one guy in a basement talking to himself, who cares? It's some of these things you have to factor in. The biggest thing that I can tell you too is that there's been some organizations that have had some huge mess ups, and some of the things, and more often than not, the best thing to do is own up, take responsibility in a way that that shows you is genuine. You can't fix everything, and not every person is going to have a great experience. You could have 10,000. Customers, and on one is going to have a bad experience. They typically are the person who yells the loudest online. But, own up, engage with that person, and, sometimes know when to let things lie.
Jason, how do you react to online reviews that may not be glowing or, let's face it, may be really negative?
I usually swear a lot, but online? I'm sort of the same. Yeah, online. I'm sort of the same way. Sometimes I feel like you could sort of take the easy route and just not address it, go the other way. And there's sometimes that you have to sort of not get in their face in a abrupt way, but just sort of address it. I mean, I this past Sunday, a good chef friend of mine, we cooked for President Clinton, who was here in Boston. And so my restaurant, we were tweeting that we all day that we're cooking for him. And this lady tweeted, "How many times are you going to mention this?" And so I replied back and I wrote 17. And I think it's because, it may offend her, but I could have just taken it. But you have to address it. I think it's the only way we're going to get better. I mean, the whole social media thing gives us these like superpowers, and it's like we can organize a flash mob, we could end childhood hunger, we could come to WB. I mean, there's so many things we could do from our computer, our phones. And so I think it gives us these powers to address all this stuff. And for me, it's I want to know. I mean, if someone doesn't like something, I want to know why. I often tell my staff or my cooks, if one person says this steak is too salty, beat it. If 5 people say it's too salty, it's probably salty. So we have to listen to that. And, if you open up a forum for negativity, you're going to get it. But I think if you sort of stay focused and take that information, I've taken the information that I now need to sell candles, So, it's you just have to take it and twist it and turn it into a positive.
Can you prevent yourself from going negative when you have a bad review? Or being on the defensive, that as an owner of the company, obviously you have pride in your product, pride in your business. Is there any mileage from being on the defensive in that online conversation?
Oh, yeah, just jump in. So the one thing I will say is that, and Jay talked about earlier about, sometimes you can't always take things down. Remember that, and sometimes it's great just to take a breath. Take a breath before you post, before you tweet, before you share, because if your first reaction is to be furious, blood's boiling, and just all right, what I'll do is walk away a little bit, or I'll tell people to walk away a little bit, come back, and then re-look at what you wrote and say, all right, understanding this may be permanent, and then send it out.
Yes, Michelle.
Well, again, you have to look at these as relationships, and it's not so dissimilar from a relationship you have in life. There are definitely times when someone brings something to you that makes you want to pick up a folder off your desk and hit them with it. But you don't do it. You wait a second, you calm down, maybe you even say, I'm going to give this some thought, I'm going to come back to you with an answer. These are relationships. That's what most of social media is. It's really genuine human interaction, and it has to be genuine. But it also has to be in a business context, professional, mature, and somewhat moderated.
Steve?
Yep. And I think that it also has to be timely, too. Because if one of these posts goes up over the weekend and your social media people go home on Friday and then come back on Monday, it could just totally explode and get a lot worse than it would have been if someone on Saturday morning saw it and said, hey, I saw your tweet, understand what you're saying, let's take it offline, or maybe they might have a response, it depends. But the companies, this is a 24-hour thing, really. I'm on it, well, not 24 hours a day, but close to it.
When the wrong message comes up, we've always, all of us, I think, at one time or another, we hit the wrong button, and it's gone. Is there any way to retrieve it, to edit it, to change it, to retract it? What do you suggest?
Well, with Twitter, it's not built in a way that you can edit your tweets. So I like to have my tweets not have any typographical errors. So when I put out a tweet that has a typo in it, I delete it. Well, I copy it, delete it, paste it, fix the error, and then post it again. So you can delete them. What happens is sometimes you'll make a tweet and someone will take a screenshot of it or capture it, or everything you put on the web is there forever. But on these tweets that are a problem or an error, I just delete it and redo it.
Yes, Michelle.
So I have a slightly different take on that. First of all, people make typos. Typos happen. I understand in a business context, there's certainly a higher standard, but typos happen. Sometimes I actually immediately poke fun at them. By the way, already made a typo in a tweet this morning, just so you all know. Not going to fix it.
We may see it on the screen soon.
It's all right. Hopefully you guys aren't going to break up with me over it. But that said, as much as we say the internet lasts forever, it has an attention span not dissimilar from some of our friends here on the panel.
And I'll address that after.
When we're talking about real time, the downside is you do have to monitor it all the time. The upside is people look away really fast. Shiny. Ooh, look, something else.
Excellent. I also want to thank you for tweeting. Somebody just tweeted intriguing stuff here at the WBZ Business Breakfast. Thank you so much. The Cambridge Trust Company, WBZ Business Breakfast. Now, we're going to go to your questions, and we have a question right in the middle, and please tell me your name and where you're from and your question, sir.
Mike DeMarco, Cumberland Associates in Boston.
Yes.
I liked Michelle's story about the P&G link. She called it Connect and Develop for Innovation. But it strikes me there's a dark side to that, and it was covered in a Sunday news story a couple of weeks ago about an architectural firm that found its creativity diminishing in terms of winning competitive bids. And they studied the problem and decided they're going to unplug themselves from the internet periodically during the day, and they'll just have windows, morning, lunchtime, end of the day, because the most creative people in the firm we're getting distracted, interrupted from the most valuable process they were responsible for in that firm. And I wonder more broadly for business enterprises, what about this risk of interruption and distraction and the connection to the internet? Isn't there another side to all of this for people that take a business approach to social media?
Great question. Yes, Michelle.
So when we look at the younger generation, all right, first let's look at ourselves. We had something we called work-life balance. And let's face it, some of us balance a little better than others. The younger generation is emerging with something new called work-life integration that is highly reflective of this always connected world that you describe. This generation will not take a break to go to a coworker's desk or to go to a break room and have a cup of coffee. This is a generation much more likely to, I call it info snack, or catch up on a quick burst of Facebook updates. And I will say that the myth of multitasking, highly widely debunked, that people can't actually multitask. But I think the trick is to manage in a way that is consistent with the way you would have managed worker breaks in the past. I mean, you cannot deny that this generation is going to have a little bit of their attention almost constantly distracted by social media, by chat windows, but ultimately you have to have productive employees. And I don't think that just because people need to use social media for their jobs, or younger employees will expect to have access to these tools on the job, even for their personal use, that you should stop expecting your employees to do well. Certainly, you need to recognize and constructively channel these behaviors. And I do think policy, training, awareness are essential in these contexts.
What do you think of the idea, though, of limiting access at certain times of the day? Anybody?
Well,
yes?
To me, it smacks of micromanagement, but that's just not my management style.
Just to go back to your comment, I definitely waste a lot of time on social media.
Okay, guilty.
He's admitted.
I know I waste time on social media, but that being said, I definitely get a lot more done because I use it. So I'll just give you one example. So yeah, don't get me wrong. There's times when I should be doing something else, and I'll spend 5-10 minutes doing something. But you know what? I can network with more people. I can stay connected with more people. I can learn more information. I can get better referrals, faster referrals. I'm not talking about person-to-person referrals. I'm just talking about sources of information and so forth. So those positives far outweigh the 5 or 10 minutes that maybe that I'm goofing off. That, by the way, if you have attention span problems, if the internet wasn't there or social media wasn't there, you'd be wasting time doing something else. It's not the channel, it's you. So.
Okay, Jason, are you tweeting while you're cooking?
There's a certain balance, and I think the one thing that I've heard is that, the cool thing about social media is everybody has their own perception of what social media, why do you do it? I certainly do it for fun, but I also do it for business, and I try to integrate that for me. However, a bank, maybe not so much. But I do if I think it's cool. I mean, there's plenty of times that I've taken a picture of a dish that I'm very proud of and putting it online, and I do spend a good chunk of time, but for me, in a small, tiny restaurant, I see a direct response from it. So I will tweet a picture of a dish, and then I happen to sell more. So in my head, it works. So I do. And I have cooks that sometimes tweet. And if they're tweeting about their pet dog, we might have to have a conversation. But if my pastry chef is tweeting an awesome dessert as well, I think that's great. And I think the cool thing about social media is it is just another avenue. It can't be just that. That is not going to make anybody successful. It's an integration of all of the above, I think.
Excellent. Okay. Another question right over here? Yes.
Yes, good morning. My name is Martin Laird. I'm a sales and marketing executive looking for a new position with representing an organization. And I'd like to find out how can you best use social media to searching for new sales and marketing positions other than the traditional ways of LinkedIn and versus Twitter and Facebook.
Any ideas?
So,
yes.
Okay, so you say in addition to LinkedIn, but I wonder if you've ever said to yourself, perhaps you have, perhaps you're a power user, but I would like to work for this specific company And then taking a look at LinkedIn, not only to see how many contacts in your extended network are connected to that company, but you can also take a look at that company and see the path that most of the employees took to get to that company. So you can almost reverse engineer a job hunt by saying, well, maybe a stepping stone to get to that job is. And I realize that might not be sort of an immediate gratification need, but I do think that's one a lot of people don't think about.
So I have an example of, there's this ad agency who wanted to work in alternative energy, and they had no clients in it. So what they decided to do was make up a blog and start posting about alternative energy and these different things. They were really interested in it, and they wanted to support that. So they started a blog, and they were writing about it every day, different news articles, their thoughts on alternative energy. One of the top alternative energy companies founded through just Googling alternative energy things. They found that the company's blog, and they hired them as their PR agency. So I would say whatever you have an authentic, real interest in, something you're passionate in the sales field, whatever it might be, start a blog about that, and show that on the web so that it's called inbound marketing, and you can be found by companies that are looking for someone like you.
It's also called personal branding when you're an individual who, rather than an organization, trying to get new leads. One of the contributors to the book, Dan Schwabel, he wrote another book called Me 2.0, in which you create a blog or a site, a destination that is about your personal views on your craft. And again, it allows you to attract potential employers to you rather than going out and identifying them.
Yes,
Jump
AJ.
in here for 1 second. And this might be something we may disagree on, Steve. So the one thing I will say, if you decide to go outside of the box, outside of LinkedIn and other things, and you decide to do a video resume, you hear a lot of people talking about that these days, make sure it's good. I get a lot of these, and these people think that they're amazing and so forth. Where and some of them are very creative, and my hat's off to them. They do a great job. But if you're going to show me or you're going to show the company, what you think is the best of you, show me the best of you. Don't send us something that you think is that you wouldn't want to go on mainstream or in a public. Just a little tip. So
I agree with that.
Good.
Before we go on, I just want to refer to and respond to a tweet. No, I am not available for iPhone telephone messages. I will not record your greeting. That's not in my resume. Okay. Yes, right back here.
Hi, my name is Kathy Taylor from Rhodes Scholar. Thank you very much, BZ, for this public service. It's
well,
excellent.
thank you.
The panel is excellent. Thank you. AJ, I just wanted to ask you a question. If you could just elaborate on what you mentioned on Good Morning America with your client. Could you just elaborate on how you got the rest of the social media pieces in order to make sure you maximized the financial piece?
Yep. Yeah, great question. So first thing we had to do is we had to audit the resources. So understanding what things we were going to have at our disposal. So the following, there are 300,000 plus Facebook fans that were really passionate. Understanding that Good Morning America was going to be, willing enough and collaborate with us to send out the types of messages that we would hope that they would send out. Understanding that all of the other social properties, making sure that whether there be their Yankee Candle's blog or even the influencers, letting them know ahead of time that this was going to be airing and so forth. It's one thing to just say, all right, we're just going to send this out in this type of information, but saying, all right, these are all the resources at our disposal. These are the types of messages that we're going to help to support what's going to be showing on Good Morning America at this specific time. Things like that. That's basically just getting all your house in order, planning for this thing to go out, because again, it's great getting 4.5 million viewers on Good Morning America, but then also extending that through online. And actually, one of the things I didn't mention was because it was successful, there was two components of it. The properties themselves stirred a lot of commotion, very passionate fans. But then within a short amount of time, a couple of hours, the coupon sites, because of the activity, picked up on it too, and that's when the thing really went viral online. It was pretty staggering to watch too, especially the great thing, we haven't really talked about measurement about this, and we may be getting to that later, but all this stuff you can watch. You can watch the analytics, you can watch the traffic, you can watch the transactions. That's when the stuff really gets exciting.
Excellent. Do we have a question from over this side? This side's been rather quiet. Do we have somebody? We have a question right back here. Yes.
Hi.
We'll get a mic to you. Yes, sir.
My name's Abe Hirsch. I own Foot Solutions in Newton. Our customer base is a little older. They're brand new digital immigrants. Any suggestions on how to engage them?
Good question. Yes, AJ.
So one thing I'll say is that obviously, depending upon your customers and the age group they're at, people have certain characteristics, and we understand how people are operating online. One of the things for the older demographic, two things. One is, I always tell people that they're always surprised to hear. One is, the baby boomer generation is actually the fastest growing demographic on Facebook. That's the first thing. But the second thing is the older generation, they're online and they're doing a lot of things. One of the things you definitely don't want to ignore is just search marketing. So, doing a lot of searches, maybe not even through social media, but using search engines like Google and so forth, making sure that you have that covered, as well as some of the stuff in social media. They're consuming a lot of content, so maybe they're not publishing their blog, maybe they're not tweeting, but if you have a blog and you're offering content, your voice, it can be a great way to connect with them. One of the companies that, I could be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure, a great blog that I read I thought I saw somebody from Grand Circle Travel here. And they do a great job with, I believe it's Dorothy, but connecting with an older demographic. It's just some stuff to consider.
Yes.
One of the things I agree with wholeheartedly is that content attracts your audience. So knowing your audience and providing content of value to them. One of the mistakes a lot of companies make with social media is simply self-promotion. The Charles Hotel is a terrific example if any of you have not had a look at their site, at their Twitter feed. One of the things they do that I think is just lovely is beyond promoting themselves, promoting good reviews, promoting a special in the restaurant, they promote the community. So they, beyond just attracting visitors to Boston, this serves to reinforce their place as part of the larger community. So again, identifying the influencers in your audience is essential. But think of it as more than just yourself. Be part of where you are. Be part of the places your audience is, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry, I'm not recalling the name of his business, but identifying places that they will find of interest, promoting activities that this audience will find of interest, being part of your community in a larger context is also essential.
Excellent. Yes, Jason.
Just one, obviously for me it's a much smaller scale, but I often will ask my followers, like, what do you want to see in the menu? What do you like? What don't you like? I think it's, again, it's a conversation, maybe not necessarily social media, but on a customer in the restaurant. Hey, what do you guys want to see? I'm a huge fan of inspiration from other people. I love to cook, but I cook for you, so I need to know what people want to see.
It's funny, the architecture example we had earlier as well, this is the assumption that social media is one way. It isn't. I get as much, I'm a writer, that's my main love in life, and I get so much inspiration from this odd, eclectic blend of people that I now know online that I think it really enhances my work. So,
we have a question way in the back, right? Yes, sir.
My name is Bob McKenzie, and I run an HR consulting company. And my biggest problem is trying to attract people to my blog. I just don't know how to start to get people reading what I'm writing. And I know that seems very basic, but I struggle with just that initial attraction.
Have you tried painting your hair blue?
I have, yeah.
Stop being boring.
Yes.
All right, so a couple of things. And again, I haven't read your blog, but if you don't have good content, people aren't going to read it. So I think it's important that you make sure the content is well written, informative, has value, first and foremost. And don't ask your mom or your wife. Ask somebody else. Additionally, this idea of influencers, I'm not sure, we're kind of ringers here, so that we bandy that term about. You have to engage with the existing thought leaders in your space, or with people who are influencers in your space. Get them to care about you, and their followers will follow.
Yeah, that's a good point, and do that in an authentic and real way. Do a Google search, find the other blogs that are talking about similar things that are on your blog, and read the posts for a while, and then jump on there and make a comment on something that you find interesting, and don't just say, "Hey, come visit my blog." Talk about what you read and give a comment, and as you make your comment, there'll be a link back to your blog. So that blog owner might want to click on you and find out who you are, and the readers of that blog are interested in the same thing that your blog and that blog are kind of similar, so then you might get some readers. And keep reading and commenting, and then you can make a connection, and you might even become, an acquaintance or friend of the person writing the blog. I mean, that's the way it goes. For example, earlier we talked about the elder bloggers. So my mom is one of the oldest bloggers on the internet. She's 86 years old. Yep. And thank you. It's because, one day she's asking me, well, what's this blog thing? So I made her one. So then she said, what am I gonna write on here? I says, well, write about what you're interested in. You go out to dinner, you go watch movies, you read books, you reminisce about the old times. So that's what she blogs about. And people found her, people from all over the world. And as they commented, she said at first, who are these people? And where are they coming from? And so I explained to her, click on their names, and then that'll take you over to their blog. So she found people from all over the world that she finds interesting. Ronnie Bennett is a blogger that's pretty famous, and they became fast friends. She became friends with an elder blogger from Paris, and that woman came to Boston, and they had lunch together. So this is a personal example of how the commenting on each other's blogs really works.
Excellent. Yes, AJ.
Just jump in here, too. So throw the question back at you, too. Would you rather have 30,000 people come to your blog and read it, or 30 prospective customers come to your blog and read it? The one thing I'll say is don't beat yourself up just about numbers, because a lot of times, especially for you guys in the maybe in the B2B world, you hear numbers, 300,000 fans, 100,000 people reading your blog. If you're in a niche industry focus and you're getting quality traffic, more often than not, that's the kind of traffic you want. So if you're only getting a couple hundred people a day, but those are people that you can potentially do business with or influencers within your space, that's a good thing. It's a good start. So,
Jason?
I think that's a good point. You definitely can't quantify it by followers, stuff like that. Half of my fans are from Singapore, So, it's the show's on in 17 countries, so it's like every time it's on in a different country, I get a whole bunch of people. So at the end of the day, are these people going to help my business? Absolutely not. It's just a matter of building the brand. But I think the one thing, clearly all very different up here, no question. However, the one thing that I find very sort of even is that you have to ignite, you have to have passion, you have to interact. These are like the basic necessities, I think, of life. And, maybe instead of just kind of here, come by this, just be sort of more real. And I think people, like it or not, I think people really can sort of relate, I think you just have to be real.
Excellent. Hold that thought for one moment. Does anybody on this side of the room have a question? Raise your hand because we'll get a microphone over there. We've had microphones on this side too. And if one of you could move over there after the next question. But yes, Michelle.
I also want to give a shout out to the Boston Police. What an amazing Twitter feed. What an incredible Facebook presence. Again, a place that you would think really needs to, quote, control the message, yet a very human, authentic, passionate, caring voice for the community. Take a look at it. It goes way beyond posting things like the Monday Most Wanted, I thought was really cute. They do this Monday Most Wanted thing. But they do things like give props to their teams that have made a great arrest, a really important arrest. Or they engage the community in other ways beyond simply, this one-way messaging.
Excellent. Yes, right here in the front.
Hi, my name's Ryan Palmer from Fisher College in Boston. First off, I'm starstruck because Hell's Kitchen is one of my actually favorite shows, and Jay's season is actually one of my favorites. So, hi.
Thanks. And before you ask the question, I want to shout out to Fisher. Thank you very much for coming. You have, about 30 students here today?
I think so.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Yes.
My question is, where do you see the use of social media expanding in the next few years with marketing and everything like that?
Who has the crystal ball? AJ, you want to take a stab at that?
Jump into that. So, if anything, it's going to go more and more. One of the big things that we look at, is mobile. So, right now, we could talk about this, but right now, somewhere around 35% of people have smartphones. And I think from maybe some of the numbers that I read recently, maybe by the end of next year, 1 out of every 2 people will have a smartphone. The reason why I'm laying this all out there is because when that happens, there's roughly going to be about 2.5 times as many people computing on their phones as on laptops or desktops. That's a game changer for us because now they'll be able to do functions literally, at a finger's notice to do a lot of different things. So I think as marketers, we need to embrace that, understand people are going to be searching for things differently. They're going to be looking for information differently, sharing it differently. I think that's where we're hedging a lot of our bets.
Yes.
So again, I think everybody focuses on marketing. It's all about you, man. There's so many other ways to use social media. I mentioned innovation. I think that's a huge area. But I'm actually seeing, and this isn't brand new, but I'm seeing an emerging number of businesses that actually their entire business model is built upon interaction. There was a T-shirt company many years ago. One of the early pioneers in this was Threadless. I'm sure all of you guys, if you don't know Threadless, you got to check out Threadless. Threadless doesn't use designers. They don't have designers on their staff. Their community designs the T-shirts. They submit designs. They do it primarily to get publicity for their designs, though they do get a little bit of money if the community selects their design. There is a much more recent example is Local Motors, which is a new American car company that, again, does not have a single designer on its staff. It boasts the world's largest community of designers because every single component of its vehicles is designed by its community. And then the community also votes on which automobiles are created. And again, each of these is created in a regional micro facility to reinforce that sense of local and community, despite this really giant global community that creates these automobiles. There is so much more to social than marketing and CRM. I believe these are essential components, but there are ways to incorporate social interaction from the very foundation of your business. Create a culture of openness, a culture of social behavior, and all of these activities will be more genuine and authentic from the start.
Excellent, excellent. We're going to get another question. I did want to say, I wanted to react to a tweet. Somebody said, we love everyone at WBZ. I want to make sure that that was not a staff member who tweeted. Okay, fine, thank you. Right back here.
Thank you. My name is Bobby Mitra. I'm with Consulting Services for Education. I had 2 questions, one of which got somewhat answered, the crystal ball thing. The other question was, technology in education is an unfulfilled promise. And it's been a big promise, bigger and bigger over the last 50 years. Do you see social media making a change in delivery and effectiveness? And can you share an example?
I can think of one off the top of my head, which is Encyclopedia Britannica. So obviously growing up, it's gold standard of information. You just assumed anything coming out of there was right. And I think that, I don't remember exactly when this happened, but Wikipedia, obviously in their model of how information and the peer and audience review type of system. But I think it may have been last year, if you guys know, please jump in, but I think last year, the year before, where Encyclopedia Britannica actually opened up and adopted a lot of the Wikipedia model because they thought it to be so effective in terms of the quality of information and the accurateness of the information. To me, that was a big game changer because here was something that you're growing up with as a digital immigrant, and you had this gold standard of information. Now you're saying, all right, well, social media is actually having a huge impact, and saying this is a better way. So that's just one off the top of my head.
Yes.
So there are certainly educators out there that are at the forefront of employing more technological approach to education. The Game School in New York is of course one of the finest examples, and we were lucky enough to have a couple of Game School employees contribute to the book Dancing with Digital Natives. But what I am seeing is an increased use of socially mediated learning, particularly in higher education. As we see more distance learning opportunities, educators are being forced to embrace social interaction as part of the learning experience. I mean, think about it. You know, the nice thing about this physical environment is that we can meet each other, we can interact, we can learn from each other's questions and answers. And a lot of educators, especially in higher education, are beginning to deploy those for distance learning. But I'm also seeing educators begin to tape and archive lectures, use more e-textbooks, which again, when you use an e-textbook, you might say to yourself, oh, the great thing about an e-textbook is that it will cut the cost of textbooks. Frankly, as a parent, I can relate. That's an expense I'm not looking forward to. But a lot of e-textbooks actually allow for things like shared bookmarks, shared notes, shared highlighting. So I do think it's important that educators really pay attention to how socially mediated learning is not only going to enhance the education for, say, those in rural communities who have a very limited ability to, for class selection, for example. They're not going to be able to take Mandarin, whereas a kid in New York City or San Francisco might be able to. But with an online learning environment, they could. But also recognizing that the expectation of socially mediated learning is going to be there with this next generation of students, and that it isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I want to take a question that has been tweeted to us from somebody watching us online, and that is, can any of you mention some of the most effective tools in helping your company in its social media presence?
It's not the tools.
Well, I know, but you know, you need the toolbox too.
You go.
Okay, so my focus is mainly video, so there are a lot of tools out there that can help you do video very easily. Actually, the first would be on the iPhone. If you have a Twitter client, there's a little picture of a camera, and you can push that camera, record a video as a response to someone who's asked you a question. This happened to me yesterday. Someone said on a tweet, "Can you tell me more?" Well, I can only tell them 140 characters on a tweet.
Not that much more, yes.
So I said, you know, I'm just going to record a video and tell them more. So I recorded a video, and on the iPhone 4, you can hold the camera at yourself and see yourself recording. So I recorded the message and hit return and sent it to him. And then he replied and was like, great response. This is really cool. And then other people retweeted that. So video in Twitter, not many people are taking advantage of this, but it's a really powerful way to do video.
AJ?
How many people here actually have the LinkedIn application on their phone? Okay, a fair amount of them. A lot of you may or may not know, there's actually, on that application, there is the in-person function. You'll see it. You probably never noticed it before. It's towards the bottom when the main screen. Basically allows you, for you're an event like this and you're meeting with someone, if you have your Bluetooth enabled and your phone is on the in-person mode, you just hold it near the other person and you can actually connect with them without having to do anything. It'll just link up. You'll send a request to both parties still link up through LinkedIn. I use it at a lot of events. It's great, especially if you run out of cards or whatever.
Excellent. Okay, we have a question on this side of the room, right? Yes, sir.
Sure. Good morning, Jay Gubala with the Herb Chambers Companies. My question is, should social media sites be blocked on internal company networks? I understand completely why Jason and AJ have it on theirs, but suppose you're an accounting firm or a group of car dealerships. If the answer is no, it shouldn't be blocked, then how do you police for appropriate content? And how do you measure, perhaps, reduced productivity for people that wouldn't use social media as much as AJ does?
Excellent. Good question. Yes, sir. Yes. Michelle.
You can call me sir. It's okay.
I
I'm not that insecure. So, as many as 50% of organizations block or restrict the use of social media right now for the reasons that you suggest. First and foremost, this is short-sighted. An organization that has an all-out ban on social media is going to be missing out on all of the opportunities that we're talking about here. They are never going to truly embrace social interaction as part of their company. And eventually, they're going to get left in the dust. That's all there is to it. Next, you have to have a social media policy. Now, I understand in very small businesses, this policy could be as casual as many of your other policies, a discussion with your employees over the first cup of coffee in the morning. But in large organizations, particularly those that have compliance issues, you need a policy in place. And then just like every other rule you have in your organization, you need a way to police, monitor behavior. You need to be monitoring the activity, every mention of your company online, and you need to respond individually to employees that don't adhere to your policies. Social media is not the bad guy. Individual employees behave, well, stupidly, just like they always have. There have always been people who would rather, play games while they're at work or sit on the phone and chat. Maybe you didn't know this, but originally, when the telephone was introduced into workplaces, many organizations banned it from the desktops because people would obviously just sit on the phone and chat to their friends all day. Gee, how short-sighted. I mean, we really need to address this new tool just like we would any other. I remember having to be taught how to write a business letter. I laugh now because it seems absurd. We still have to teach our employees to use the tools in a professional context.
AJ, yes.
Yeah, just one thing. So for those of you who are dealing with compliance issues, I don't know if there's a lot of companies here in the financial services space, but we've done a lot of work looking into that and help training companies with that. But the one thing I will say is a lot of companies have always had this fear because you need to archive all of the information. So, all of your emails are being archived, they're being recorded and so forth. And a lot of times the reason why financial service companies block those sites is because they're worried that they don't have a way to, one, they think their employees are going to overstep the guidelines and screw up somehow, some way. But two, because of compliance, they have to archive everything. But there are technologies that are out there that will do that for you and will even tell you, when something, making an endorsement, when you're not supposed to, I don't know how many people know that if you're in a financial services company, if you're an advisor, you're not even supposed to endorse somebody because that is overstepping the guidelines. But there are companies that will actually monitor everything, record everything, and even advise you, this is a software, when you're overstepping your bounds. Pretty cool stuff.
Jason, everybody in your staff tweet while they're working?
No, I mean, I think, again, on a smaller scale, I think when it's appropriate, and I think, I sort of break it down. I don't feel like it's so sort of intricate. I feel like it's just a digital expression. It's if you wouldn't do it in real life, you probably shouldn't do it on Twitter. I mean, it's kind of, to me, is a sort of more common sense. And I think, there has to be rules just like anything. And I think it's kind of, I don't know, I sit back and I think sometimes it's not so elementary, but at the same time, it's like, if you wouldn't talk on the phone during work, you probably shouldn't tweet.
Sure.
If I could just throw one more thing out there, since somebody had asked about tools. There's also some great resources in terms of organizations. Gentleman back there was talking about recruiting. So I know NERA and SHRM and so forth in the recruiting space. They're putting out great information. Jay, obviously in the restaurant industry, there's one of the best ones around with Mass Restaurant Association. Tons of information and content and really valuable stuff. Actually, spoke to those guys recently, and I was surprised at how much valuable info they're putting out there for their members. Look at the organizations that you belong to and see what they're doing. You'd be surprised at how much info that they're probably putting out for you.
It's very similar to this idea of open innovation. A lot of leading organizations make their social media policies available publicly online. And if you are looking for one, do some searches. There's you'd be shocked, some very large organizations that have their social media policy out there, and you can shape yours after theirs.
Excellent. We have another question right over. We have a lot of questions now. Way in the back. Let's see, right here, yes.
Chris Knoll, Winter Wyman Companies. One of my questions is, obviously, as an individual brand, you want to be cutting edge, Twitter, Facebook. As you mentioned, people have a short attention, so you want to be that first person to comment, first person. But then there's the corporate side of things where you have to look at it and say, is this something we should say? Is this a comment we should make? So from a corporate side, do you guys find there's different avenues in social media that's more effective, such as a blog rather than Twitter?
So, if you want me to jump in, I feel like I'm doing all the talking here, but I'm talking. Yeah, it's good. Well, I will say this, a couple things really quickly. So, before you embark on this social media effort where you're going to be doing everything and all things, understand where your audience is. So, if you're dealing in an industry where your audience isn't on Twitter, why are you going to do Twitter? You monitor it and so forth, but understand that that's first and foremost. Then understand too, the second thing is that not everybody wants to operate the way that you do using the channels that you are. So if I start pitching my company through Facebook to all my friends, they're going to be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Because for them, it's a social experience. Whereas people typically think, all right, LinkedIn, this is more of a business setting. So understand those types of things and then make your decision based upon your audience and how you want to present the company and yourself and so forth.
That's a good point. So if you put things on Twitter, they're not going to be visible on Google because Google isn't indexing Twitter. If you put your things on Facebook, Google isn't going to index Facebook. But if you put your content on Google+, Google's going to index that pretty rapidly and pretty quickly, and LinkedIn too. So would you say that Google+ is a good place for people to post to?
Yeah.
I mean, for visibility in
Again,
Google.
it depends on what they're using for. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you want to be seen, search rankings high up in Google, isn't Google+ now something that people should look into?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, now we have lots more questions. We have 25 minutes left, so we're going to go into a little, if you keep the questions concise, and we'll try to keep the answers concise as well. Way in the back, right under the Cambridge Trust sign, yes.
Keith Bisogno, Thermo Fisher Scientific. I would like to hear from the panel a little bit more on Google+, just some perspective. Also, as a large company serving a worldwide large customer base, I'm curious about the panel's opinion about companies putting social tools or trying to bring that social feeling back on their own websites where they control the environment, maybe control the message. And have you seen that work in any way where it's not just on the broad social media outlets and tools like Twitter, but that you can straddle that with your own B2B website?
So one of the things you definitely want to look at for that latter example is social sign-on, where if you create an experience on your site and you use social sign-on, you can incorporate someone's social network, social presence, etc., into your site kind of very easily for them.
Oh, so a little bit more on Google+. So Google has a social network now. It's called Google+, and everybody can join as an individual. Just within this week, they just opened it up to business. So now you can have your own Google+ page, which I think you should probably do. And that will, as you post to that as your company, those search results are going to come up really high in Google, because really your homepage is Google. When someone goes searching for something, they're going to go to Google and type in whatever it is they're looking for, and those search results, it's very important that you try and get on the first page. So going to Google Plus and putting things on there, I think, is really good. Another thing I also think that's important is using video, because video posts on blogs and on Google Plus make you more likely to come up on the search results page, because Google likes to highlight videos on things that people are searching for, right?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up. So one of the things we really haven't touched upon much this morning is search marketing. So when people have needs, one of the first instincts is they're going to Google, they're going to, Bing or Yahoo and so forth. But social now has a huge impact on search. For that reason alone, one of the things that we talk to people about is integrating their social and search strategy together. I'll give you just one example. So you go out, you're creating this blog, and you have some great traffic, but understanding things like, well, what are my keywords? You know what I mean? So how can I link this back? How can I get some benefit from this to, link back to my company website, so if people are searching for, whatever it is your company does, you're going to come up higher. I mean, just a little bit of things like that just to consider when you're looking at your social and search strategy. So.
Yes. I don't do the Google Plus thing, but I think the one thing that, again, that's all common is that it's different for everybody. It's such a subjective thing. It's it's hard to say this is what you need to do, because frankly I don't believe that. I think everybody has their own needs, and I have been told multiple times you should put recipes on YouTube. Maybe I will, but and maybe that will work better. But I think it's more of just a discussion. I think it's different for everybody, and I think we have to bring it down and say, what do you want out of this, and then go further.
Sure, excellent. We have a question right in the corner. Yes.
Hi, my name is Marcia Weaver from Mass Bay Commuter Railroad, and my question is if you have a large customer base and you want to find out the demographics of the people that are using Twitter and twittering you, do you have to do that through another avenue, like a general survey, or is there some other way to do that?
So you're trying to understand your audience, in other words?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to confess my ignorance here because I actually believe that just admitting when you don't know something is the best thing. But I will say one of the most effective ways to engage your community is through surveys, questions, and so forth in social media. I mean, particularly very short ones with immediate results that people can see. So I think that you might be able to incorporate as part of your social media strategy some sets of survey and user interaction that would sort of tacitly help you better understand your demographic.
Jason, do you know the demographics of your audience?
I mean, I feel like I think I know, but I
just because you
yeah,
see
I mean,
what
it's
they write.
I'm in the financial district, so obviously lunch is the financial, everybody from that area. But the one thing that how do you gauge that? How do you quantify it? I don't have the answer, but on a personal level, when we first opened the restaurant, I did comment cards, which is a little cliche because you sort of think of the corporate chains. But I'll tell you, I couldn't have done. That's the best move I've ever made because. Again, if one person says, hey, I don't like your orange light, well, whatever. But a lot of people said it's loud, so I had to fix the sound, And I think it's the same thing. If we can sort of translate that into social media and find out that it's a phenomenal tool, and it's humbling, but it's how we got better, And I'm really happy I did it.
We sort of circle back to tools here. Is there a tool that she can use to find out the demographics of her audience?
I agree with Michelle. I think the big thing is just surveys. I think surveys are an easy way to do it. And one other thing too, just thinking with my PR hat as well. In addition to finding out some of that just basic information about your demographics, and if you have a large customer base, I find a lot of people are using social media and applying these surveys to figure out industry trends. Which in itself is, for those of you who are dealing with some of the folks in the media, can sometimes be newsworthy. So there's a lot of different applications of just the basic information that you can get from these folks.
Certainly there are a lot of social media tools that are also competitive intelligence tools that I think are very useful. Social media monitoring tools that are also leveraged for competitive intelligence.
Excellent. Do we have a question over here? Hands, and we'll get the microphone to you right away. We have a question right in the front here. Where are our microphones? Oh, we have one way in the back. I couldn't see you because of the reflection. Sorry. Yes, and we'll come up front.
Hi, Manny Rogers from Rogers and Hutchins Funeral Homes. How can we learn more about search marketing? Sounds interesting.
451marketing.com.
What a blatant ad.
I'm going to give myself at least one plug. I'm the marketing guy on the stage. Come on.
That was easy.
No, there are a lot of great resources out there. Obviously, just Google search marketing. There's a lot of tutorials. There's a lot of SEO mods. There's a lot of great sites. I'm happy to give them to you after this broadcast as well. But give me just one example. So we offer training too. So we'll actually go in and train a staff as to best practice, how to do things, implementation, and so forth. So.
Okay, we do have a question right in the front here, and we're waiting for a microphone. Right in the front here. Do we only have one microphone now? Where is our? Okay, right here. Okay, thanks.
My name is Ryan from Waterworks Irrigation Services. I just recently started my own business this season, and I'm a little bit ignorant as far as the techniques that I might be able to use with regard to Twitter and Facebook to increase my customer base or at least make my company more visible?
So you're asking, where do we begin? Exactly. Okay.
I'm going to suggest take a look at Sullivan Tire and Auto here in Boston. I love this example because, again, it's not a company that would have jumped out to me as, well, of course, they're going to be naturals at social media. One of the things, again, start with the influencers, identify people, follow them, get the follow backs, get the retweets, engage with those influencers. But one of the things I see that a lot of local companies do is tweet about the community because it gets the community interested in you. This is a relationship. It's reciprocal. Give something of value and tweet about something a little bit bigger than yourself, and I think you're going to see you get a little bit more results.
I have a question. So when you install an irrigation system and you pull up your truck to the front of the house, what's on the side of the truck there? You probably have the company name, and do you have a phone number? Do you have a website, or do you have a Twitter name?
Still developing the website.
So for those who didn't hear, he has the company name, the cell phone number, his email address, and he's working on getting a website on there. So I think it's extremely important to get to really own your home on the web. Give people a place to go to learn more about you, because the things that you have on there now is a little harder for the person thinking that they might want to contact you. Like, they have to give you a phone call, or they might give you an email to learn more. I think it's a great idea to give them a direct link for something, so they can, when your website's up, put that on there, and people can go there and they can learn, all about you. And so the biggest benefit of the social media is this old way of having it right on your truck there for, the old way of doing social media, really.
Yes, Jason.
I think you just have to not let people forget. If you have a website, here's your Twitter feed, and on your Twitter feed have your Facebook feed, and on your Facebook feed, so it's full circle. They can never leave. They're stuck there. Link it to your reservation system. Next thing you know, you just bought 15 things and you don't even know any better.
Yeah, and don't make a label that says, find us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, and put the Twitter logo or the Facebook logo. That's like putting up. Call us on the telephone and putting a picture of a telephone.
Oh, telephone, right.
That is not going to work. It has to say...
You see that often, too.
It's on everything. So it needs to say, go follow us on Twitter at Steve Garfield.
Sure.
Go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/business name.
Yeah.
Because,
or listen to us on WBZ
right.
News Radio 1030. Yes, right
Very
there.
Slick.
Marketing in terms of sales calls. My name is Brianna Pearson from Harding House in Cambridge. It's a small guest house, large bed and breakfast, and we've been getting a lot of sales calls about quizzes and contests to get followers and to get Facebook friends. And I'm wondering, maybe from Jason, in terms of how we both provide services like that, do those kind of contests work, and how big a prize do you feel like you have to give? Because as small a business as we are, giving away a whole night's stay at our guest house is a kind of a big prize. So
it's expensive, sure.
That's a great question. I think it's, in the whole room, it's very relative. It's like, we're small businesses. We give away small things. Herb Chambers gives away BMWs, maybe. I don't know. But I think, it's like, for my restaurant, at our table, we have the Twitter, the Facebook, social media, website, everywhere. But we'll also invite people to find out what they want. And I think, when we first opened, we did a friends and family, which means, it's a trial run. We make mistakes. It's friends and family. And then we did on Twitter, whoever seventh person to tweet this will get a reservation. So, they came in, it was free. So maybe they get something discounted. It doesn't need to be, I think it's like an acknowledgement more than here's a free night. Like, maybe it's just a VIP, whatever. There's so many ways. I think it's just about being creative.
Yes.
I think when you look at the popularity of the coupon sites, you can see that people really like a discount. People like a free drink. People like a free dinner. You can enhance their stay rather than give away the whole stay.
Another thing too. So if you, in addition to or in place of, there's a really powerful medium in terms of Facebook ads. So you don't always have to do a contest. I'll just give you one quick example. We have a large coffee company here in New England. We took them within a short amount of time from about 3,000 fans to over 30,000 in like 5 months. And it was purely from running Facebook ads. It's a really powerful tool. Another example is we deal with a nurses drug handbook company that publishes down out of Philly. Same thing. Who knew nurses were so glued to Facebook? Within hours of starting to run these ads, they went from literally no fans, we helped them build their page, to over 4,000 fans within a day. So, and it didn't cost a lot of money. So.
We have a question way in the back here, right? Yes.
Hi, I'm David Koifman. I work for Standard Parking, and we manage parking garages. So how do you engage your audience when your product is parking? People hate parking, but they have to do it. So, and what is there that we say? We got a new machine on P1. Nobody cares about that. So.
I've always said there's two things I want to sell in life. I want to own a parking garage, and I want to sell water.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the biggest and most important for you, make sure you're coming up on searches, especially for mobile search. Because you think about like when people are and how they're operating, yeah, maybe you don't want to go on your blog about parking and parking trends and so forth. But if I'm going to an event downtown and I'm in my car and I'm trying to find some place to park, pulling over and just grabbing on my phone, close parking garage, you want to make sure, more than anything, that you're coming up. Claim your local search, making sure that you're coming up for mobile search. Those are probably the biggest things first and foremost.
I mean, I would say with parking, location, 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 but think about some of the other location awareness tools, such as Foursquare, and also geofencing, in which you sort of fence out an area around yourself, and it identifies you, associates you with that area. And there's lots of different applications of geofencing. But I think location is going to be key. People are going to want to know where you are right in the moment they need it.
Another question over here? Yes, right in the back, yes.
Hi, my name is Maurice Wilkie. Actually, I help market and consult for a nonprofit, and I appreciate Michelle's comments about creating a community, as well as all the other panelists talking about being sincere. Can you actually express how nonprofits can actually join and jump into the social media arena? I mean, you gave some great examples about like Sullivan Tire. Do you have any examples of nonprofits, any of you, that you can share? And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Millions.
Greater Boston Food Bank, amazing Twitter presence, wonderful Facebook presence, incredible engagement. It gives so much to the community.
I have one. It's actually near and dear to my heart. I've been involved in it forever, but it's Share Our Strength. It's the nation's anti-hunger organization. They're vowing to end childhood hunger by 2015, which I think is super aggressive. And if you want to check out their website, it's strength.org. And they do a ton of social media, and it's really engaging. And honestly, once a week I'll go on it just to be inspired. I mean, it's very, very inspiring.
I mean, that's the thing. You have great stories to tell in that context, and ultimately, stories are what people engage in a human level, especially stories that are like these about heartwarming, good works, good acts.
I worked with a company here in Boston called Third Sector New England, and so you might know them. They're a nonprofit that helps other nonprofits. And I went in there and we interviewed almost all the employees in there on video, and they shared what their expertise was. They gave out information for nonprofits who are looking for help. So they gave a sample of what their services are. So in the accounting department, they talked about accounting regulations you need to know as a nonprofit. The marketing person talked about different marketing initiatives that the nonprofit took. And the building person talked about how they were going green in the building with the different use of lighting and things. So then when you went to the website, it's like a whole database of video from the employees in the website giving information, and then also giving you an indication of what these people would be like to work with. So it's a great, humanizing the company. So if people come to your website right now and it's all text, okay. But if there's video there with people from the company talking, then you get a better sense of, okay, I might want to get engaged with them.
Yeah, I also think too, I mean, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. It's great for storytelling. I think social media really was made for nonprofit. But what it also does is it opens up a whole new world of co-branding marketing opportunities. I'll give you one. One of the first folks early on in the social media sphere was Tyson Foods. I'll give you one example. So I believe they were doing it here in Boston. It was for the Greater Boston Food Bank. So what they had, this was a promotion, I honestly don't remember when, 2005, 2006, who knows when it was. But basically they ran a promotion where for every person that went to the Tyson blog and commented on during this promotion, they were going to donate 100 pounds of food to the Greater Boston Food Bank. They did it up to, I think, 150,000 pounds. And literally within, hours, they had reached their max. Pretty cool, because Tyson recognized, well, here's a cool thing. They wanted to give back anyways, but this is also a way to give awareness, to create more awareness of what they're doing. And obviously the Greater Boston Food Bank, it's promoting their cause and their organization and giving them this opportunity to co-brand with this consumer product. I think there's so many different things now that you can do with social media if you just give some thought to it. So forth.
I think that's like the best example yet, because Tyson is the #1 supporter of Share Our Strength. Share Our Strength gives to the Greater Boston Food Bank. So it's this full circle, and so it's like everybody's promoting everybody, and really at the end of the day, what are they trying to do? They're trying to end hunger, and I think that's prime example.
We have a tweeted question, and that is, could you address the role of Yelp and how companies can react to those reviews and sometimes very negative reviews on Yelp?
Does anybody work in Yelp here?
I don't see so.
I feel I have to read it. And I'll tell you, the one thing I do read every single day is I do read Yelp, because I need to see what my consumers say about me. But I think sometimes when you ask, I think I read once, for every good meal you have, you tell one person. For every bad meal you have, you tell 6 people. And so that Yelp is sort of that 6 people, you know. But I read it and I think, you know, you have to address it. And there's certain times I'll email them back and say, you know, I'm really sorry that happened. Please come in on me, you know, whatever the case is. But I think to sort of take on everything is just too much. Nobody can do Google and Facebook and all this stuff. I think you just pick your avenue. But for me, Yelp, I love it and I hate it. You know, I hate it because it's there, but I love it because I get to learn.
Yeah. Funny story about Yelp. So recently I was on Yelp, and there's a great restaurant called the Salty Pig. I don't know if any of you guys have been here. It's here in downtown Boston. And they were getting blasted by a Yelp review, and as I'm reading it, then I'm looking through and say, well, admittedly, I am a vegetarian. Why would you ever go to a restaurant called the Salty Pig if you're a vegetarian? Come on, right? So, I mean, you have to take it with a grain of salt when you're reading through some of this stuff, all right? So, but the one thing that the thing about Yelp is that the community is authentic. So, you know, if somebody who's obviously a competitor or somebody just spamming or whatever it is, first thing, they are filtering comments. And second thing is that, you know, the community can pretty much sniff out when someone's being, you know, crazy or honest and so forth. So, but, you know, it is something you do have to be aware of, whether you like it or not. You have to read it and so forth.
Again, Charles Hotel incorporates TripAdvisor reviews on its own site. That level of transparency says to a customer, this is a fearless company. And again, with the younger generation, that level of transparency is essential.
We have a question right here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm from Marketing Drive. We're an agency actually down on Huntington. And my question is for AJ. How do you take what you do on social platforms and turn them into measurable results for your clients? You know, our clients always looking at how something returns on their investment, and the time is most of the investment, but how do you turn that into results for your clients?
So you want the secret sauce, is that what you're telling me? No, so one thing in terms of ROI, in terms of measurement, so everyone is going to have a different metric for success. I'll give you a couple examples. So, you know, some of our clients, you know, they say, all right, we're a, you know, Big Four accounting firm, and you know what we really care about is new business leads. Okay, so all this stuff is great, you know, what you're doing on LinkedIn, tweeting, and expert positioning and putting out content. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't translate to actual dollars and new business, we don't care. All right, so that's one thing. That's one ROI. You know, other things could be, you know, we just want to create, you know, on the consumer side, more awareness of our brand. So, you know, we're looking at things like brand mentions, which, you know, you can do as well, or even just traffic on a site. Everything, and actually every plan for that matter, has to start with that. What's your objective? What's your goal? Based upon that, you can say, all right, let's figure out ROI. And it could be transactional, it could be, you know, who knows. So there's no one answer for everybody in this room. And I'm not going to give you the secret sauce.
We have time for a few more questions. Yes, right down here in the corner, in the front.
Hi, my name is Wendy Lepori, and I'm about to open a new store in the North End.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. And
you going to tell us the name?
Ensemble.
Okay, good.
And my question relates to search marketing. So how is my store going to come up when someone Googles fashion store, men and women's clothing?
So the content that you would put on the web would include the words fashion store, men and women's clothing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's pretty simple. And, you know, so on a blog, you would post with some frequency. So Google would see it as something that's alive and worthwhile versus something that's, you know, not posted too much. So if you post with some frequency, that's something that looks better. And then the content that you put in there is really, you would just talk about the store and what products you have in there and what you're doing, talk about yourself, how you came to the store, who the vendors are. I mean, there's a million things you can blog about, but by putting the content in the blog post, Google's pretty much reading that and indexing that. And then when people search for something that you've talked about, it pops up.
I mean, I think it's like reiteration. If you have like your mission statement and you constantly are talking about it in so many ways, it's gonna, just stay on the message, get to your point.
Stay on the message.
What's start the revolution?
Well, and it is a process, and it is unfortunately a process that takes a little bit of investment of time. I hope you've already started. Good. And no, I mean, that's all right, because you want to start well before you open those doors. You want to already build a certain amount of buzz. Google Plus might actually be a good place to start because it is going to help you with that optimization piece. Also look at the Open Graph protocol and make sure that when you are designing pages for your site, that they are sites that will be optimized socially, because I do think that matters. Stay on message, be frequent, don't worry about length. Friend your vendors, friend your suppliers, friend the power shoppers, find the bloggers around here and get them in now. Ask their opinion. Form relationships that are going to help you build that community from the start.
Jump in.
And good luck.
Jump in
Yes.
really quickly, too. So just as we said, make sure your site's optimized for search as well, and then claim your local listing.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, one last question in the back here. Yes? Way in the back? Yes.
Yeah, I'm the owner of a website in the wedding business, and what would be the fastest way to get that to be ranked high on Google without paying for mega words? And the name of the site's thebridalshow.com.
Actually, I'd say if you're in a wedding business, I'm just giving you one very, very quick story. When I got engaged, obviously you change your status. Within minutes, I was getting ads from wedding photographers and from wedding venues. I'd look into Facebook advertising. I think it might be because it's one of the few channels where people can say, "Hey, I'm engaged. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, here's some personal information about me." You probably tremendously benefit from it as well, and then obviously search marketing too.
I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for coming this morning, and I want to thank all of you too. It doesn't work, without you. Michelle, thank you so much for traveling up from Connecticut. I hope you get your power on. You were without power for how long?
Almost a week.
Oh, goodness. I'm glad it's back on.
Luckily, I had a few old-fashioned books we could still read.
Steve, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Jason, we'll be down to your restaurant soon.
Please.
Okay. And AJ, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming to the WBZ Business Breakfast. And also, we want to thank our major sponsor, Cambridge Trust Company, our title sponsor. Also, our presenting sponsors, First Republic Bank, Solar City, Bloom Shapiro, Salem 5 Bank, Herb Chambers, Lexus of Sharon, IBEW Local 103. And also thank you to our associate sponsors, the Duck's Bed, you can still take a nap out there, 5 Hour Energy, BioHeatOnline.com, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Sterling Ware of Boston, Stonehill College, Regis Office Solutions, and Barrows. We'll have reports on air this afternoon and online at cbsboston.com. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the radio.